It was loud out there, though.
All right, Jeff Zimmerman here. Just ran into one of the top fighters in the world, Kid Austin, here at the Vergil Ortiz Erickson Lubin weigh-in Friday night. How you doing, Kid?
I'm good. You know, it's very great to get outside finally and actually see the fans and, hear the fans. It's great. It's great.
We got to ask, man, how's the hand? You got that. You still got that brace on there. How's it feeling?
The hand's good. Doctor said I have to be out for about 5 more weeks as far as punching. So I think by Christmas I should be able to get back in the gym. Lightly use it. But I'm just ready. I'm just anxious to get back in the ring.
How much does it kill you to be out here with all these people? You were supposed to be the co-main event tomorrow night, Dickies Arena, live on DAZN.
It hurts because I hear a lot. Every time I take a picture of somebody, they're like, man, I came here for you. I'm like, man, don't tell me that. And then actually seeing the fighters weigh in. And then before I was in camp for about 10 weeks, before I even, as far as before I knew JoJo was my opponent, I was already in camp. So I was in camp a minute. So to see everybody weighing in and going back to the hotel room to fight tomorrow, I'm like, man, that was gonna be me.
So are you able to make your own meals now? What are you able to do with that hand?
Oh no, I can slightly use it to make meals and stuff. Can't really play video games, pick up my son, stuff like that. But yeah, I remember the first day it happened, it was in so much pain. I tried to cook because the fight wasn't off yet, so I was making my meal prep, and I got frustrated through the spoon and whatnot. But it's part of the game.
Listen, I talked to Devin Haney today. He was in Saudi, and I asked him. He came up with the guys like Shakur and Ryan and Tank and those guys, and so far only him and Ryan have fought, and of course Tank and Ryan. But he said those fights are about to happen to make legacy. He's all about chasing legacy. I would put you in that category. Do you feel like you're about to get into those fights? You're a little bit younger though, but are you ready for that?
I'm ready for all those fights. I'm ready to fight my peers. Abdullah's about to get a title. Shakur has a title. Possibly Kermel won't win if he ever decides to come up in weight. Just everybody that they classify as, heading on their way to be great. I want to get those fights out the way. And what's best not to do while we're young. And, technically we're not even in our prime. So if we want to run it now, then run it when we're in our prime, it's fine with me. I just want to get the fights.
Your dad said you will go down not as one of the best fighters, but I believe the best fighter of all time. But having that, with your dad, that mentality, you've been programmed since you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit.
It's all, like you said, programming. My dad had a system, and he just watched it play out. So now we just put the work in, and we just gotta watch it manifest. It's been a long time, and I'm not even nowhere near done as far as my career. So I'm just excited to see where I'm headed. Not a lot of people make it to where I'm at this level anyway, from where I started. So I'm blessed as it is right now.
So gotta ask you, I mentioned Tank, just had that fallout with the Jake Paul fight. What are your thoughts on that?
You never know. I don't want to get into Tank's personal life to say that affected the fight. And then also, I'm not trying to get into the business. You hear people saying maybe Jake had a change of heart. Then you hear other people saying it's Tank's personal life, but you never know. It could be business. It could be personal. We'll never know. It was just, I feel like a good fantasy fight to think in your head. So hopefully everything's cool with Tank, mentally, and hopefully Jake can get another opponent and make a great fight for the fans.
I talked to Tim Bradley the other day. And he is not a big fan of what we would call these circus fights, especially with guys like Shakur, who are legit champions, going to help Jake Paul fight a guy like Tank, a real fighter. What are your thoughts on that and Shakur going into camp with him?
I don't really want to speak on that, but I'll give you something. I feel like, Shakur, that was just easy money to make for him, just pocket change, so why not? I mean, would I have done it? No. I feel like those fights, exhibitions, those come at the end of your career when you've already, fought everyone to fight, fought for so many world titles, gave the fans great shows. I feel like that's when you go and you fight, the Jake Pauls, who knows, all the YouTubers. So I don't really want to get on that, but I wouldn't have done it.
What about, it sounds like Ryan is going to fight Mario Barrios. Just got off a WB suspension, so I'm not sure how that works. at 147 for his belt. What are your thoughts on that, getting that title shot? I don't think even ranked in the top 10, top 15 at 147, and going right to a title fight against a guy who's been in the ring with Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao, pretty tough guy, Mario Barrios.
I think it's about time Ryan got that title shot. But I got to go with Barrios. Barrios is my guy, San Antonio. So I'm going with Barrios for the win. I feel like he has, more experience, as far as fighting the top guys. Been through wars. He knows what to do, what not to do. So I got Barrios for the win for sure.
I think I mentioned I talked to Devin this morning, and he's got a big fight on his hand with Brian Norman Jr. Mm-hmm. I know you and your dad grew up with the Normans, and there's been a lot of back and forth. You got Brian wearing that war hat, which you may be too young, but I'm sure you've seen Hagler. Yeah, and just reminiscent. And I asked him if this was a super fight nobody saw coming. Give me your thoughts on that fight, because that has fight of the year potential.
I'm just going to say to everyone that does not know Brian Norman, don't be shocked if he knocks Devin out. I grew up with Brian Norman. I seen him knocking dudes out, when we were in the gym sparring, and knocking adults out at 14. So I say don't sleep on Brian. I feel like Brian's going to edge out the victory. That's my guy, so,
Your dad thought differently, though, right? Your dad was leaning towards Devin?
I think he was leaning towards Devin like 50-50, only because Devin has the so-called feet. But you can't like not go 12 rounds without getting hit one time, and we know Brian cracking. So I just feel like Brian gonna possibly stop Devin. Plus, I don't like Devin anyway. So.
And Devin, I asked Devin about the left hook, which did him in against Ryan. But, he says he's learned from every fight. He's prepared for everything. He's been watching Norman, and pretty much will handicap anything that he brings to the table.
I don't think he'll handicap everything. I think he might make it difficult for Brian in the beginning, due to the feet movement. But we haven't seen Brian have to use his feet, so who we to say he don't got feet movement? Every fight that he's had with these, guys want him to stand toe-to-toe. He shows what he can do with that. So hopefully he shows us what he can do when Devin, is possibly running, because he's not going to stand toe-to-toe with Brian. So, may the best man win. I don't really like Devin, but, if he edges out the victory, congratulations to him. And I just hope Brian can get the victory and show he's one of the guys on top.
So what's next for you, kid, Austin? Obviously, the Diaz fight, JoJo, was kind of a go-between fight. You have bigger aspirations, title fights, etc. Back beginning of the year, who are you targeting?
I want to get that fight with JoJo. I want to run that fight with JoJo. Then we got to see what Tank's going to do with the belt. He's going to vacate. Maybe they make me fight number 2 since I'm number 1 in the WBA. I wouldn't be mad at that either, but my eyes are set on JoJo. That's the fight the fans wanted to see. That's why the fans are here. That's the fight they wanted to watch. So I got to get them what they wanted to see, and I think I get JoJo, then go for that world title.
You still want to crack at Shakur?
Of course, yeah, he's the top guy. I know we got our stuff in the past, but that's behind us. That's damn near a year ago, so I want to get that fight out the way. And Abdullah Mason, it got to the point where I told my dad, give me Mason. I want Mason. I want Shakur. Who else we got? Raymond is fighting Andy, so yeah, but those are the guys I want.
I told Devin today, he seems like one of the few guys like you, like Bud, like Canelo, like David Benavidez, that you're not just chasing a bag, but you are chasing legacy, and that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I got to give Devin that. I got to give him his credit. He's having those fights. We can't say his resume sucks because he's fighting all the top guys. Even moving up to 147 to fight the champion, and he's never fought at 147. You got to give credit where credit is due, even if he's a weirdo. So.
And what about this fight tomorrow night? I asked Vergil yesterday, I said to him, it seems like at every weight class he goes to, 140, 147, 154, it's like the most stacked division in boxing. Still doesn't have a title, but he might have the best resume at 154 as well without a title. What are your thoughts? And Erickson Lubin seems ready. He knows this might be his last shot for a title. He's had 2 tough losses. But what are your thoughts on the fight tomorrow?
I think it's a hard fight for both fighters. I feel like neither one of them could sleep on each other. Lubin has been here for a very long time. he was a top prospect amateur. I remember my dad telling me. So it's a fight. You know, it's a 50-50 fight. You know, whoever lands the first shot. I'm gonna say whoever lands the first shot. But I feel like Lubin is more like acquainted at 154. You know, more than Vergil is. I don't know how many fights Vergil had at 154. So I know it wasn't as much as Lubin. I think Lubin came into the pros at 154. So we'll see how tomorrow plays out.
Do you give I don't know if there's such thing as home court advantage, but this obviously Vergil's backyard, grew up in Grand Prairie, another Texan like you. Does that give him an edge in a fight?
I don't think so. I don't believe in home court advantage. I feel like you might be a little more comfortable fighting at home opposed to somewhere else, but you know, the home court advantage, the fans, none of that can fight for you. At the end of the day, it's just you two in the ring. So I'm not a believer in the home court advantage.
All right, you heard it here. Floyd Kid Austin Schofield Jr. here at the weigh-ins, and looks like in a better spirit than he was when he first had his injury. Be back in the ring in not so distant future. And we'll see you tomorrow night, I assume.
See you tomorrow, brother.
Awesome, thank you.
No, thank you.